There's not much time for hobbies, to be honest. I'm a father and I have a partner, so family is important. Travel, I read books, I listen to music, I like to drink red wine, I have 2 sausage dogs, and I spend a lot of time on Skype. I'm not sure if that's a hobby. No, I think having a career plan is absurd. I think having a career plan in most things is absurd. In fact, there's quite a lot of very current conversations, things like a Harvard Business Review Online's had a series of articles recently about why career planning is not a very good idea. Things just don't work that way. I think it's good to have driving passions and ambitions. I think it's good to have a sense of training and developing yourself and your networks and your skills and your resources to do great things. But I think being alive to chance, being open to opportunity, being very nimble and prepared to change track completely, and living completely without regrets that you didn't get to do the thing that you thought you would do when you were 18 or 25 or 40 in the next phase of your life are essential, and I think they're things that career planning can really damage. I've worked in a service station before. I've telemarketed superannuation. I worked in a museum, and now I run a circus. I think that's all fairly surprising. I don't know. I think it would be lovely to say I'd double or quintuple or whatever funding, and clearly the arts could do with more funding, as could many things. But nothing makes sense by itself. There are places where there's places in Australia, and there are places internationally where there's too much arts funding to create an interesting, competitive, vibrant environment. And it's very hard to get it right. I think a day wouldn't be nearly long enough to figure out how to actually go ahead and make changes that had good, lasting impacts, rather than creating puddles of overfunded kind of laziness and privilege in a sea of people working very hard, often with very little. What you want to do is find a way to lift up and inspire and encourage growth in the whole sector, and that's very difficult. It doesn't happen just by throwing wads of cash in. I mean, that helps, but it's a bit like building school halls. It's not by itself a sustained systemic growth to the culture. To do that as an arts minister, I reckon would take, even if you had all the political power in the world, would take years to figure out how to do it, and a lot of mistakes. Shrek, for sure. My son always calls me Shrek, or maybe King Kong, because he also calls me a hairy gorilla. So it's a toss-up. The arts is part of the rest of society, and society at the moment is going in this incredibly dangerous path where it's becoming more and more polarized between a kind of a conservative right and a radicalized left, and that's a recipe that leads to really horrible things happening. I think the same thing is happening in the arts. There's a vibrant, interesting, small sector and kind of underfunded small sector, and there are really big things that have loads of resources and money and attention. A few things cross over. Circa perhaps is one of those that moves between those worlds. But on the whole, I think there is this kind of polarization going on. Our challenge is to figure out how to be decent human beings together and to try and do something better with the world, leave the world in a better place than we found it. I think about jumping ship every single day. I think if you're not seriously contemplating resigning from a creative profession every day, you're not doing it hard enough or not taking enough risks. if our performers go on stage at Circa and they take these incredible risks, God forbid any performance they do could be the last thing they ever do, last performance they ever have. I think the same thing has to happen for the way everyone else does their jobs. And if you're working at that level, you have to think